Welcome back to JohoTests, the podcast, and I'm your host, Balisam Shungu. And with this being a new month, I'm super excited to share this time with our special and esteemed guest. Our guest today is truly a powerhouse in the realm of business modernization. He's not only a visionary leader, but also a passionate advocate for personal development. He believes in empowering individuals to see themselves as thriving entrepreneurs, regardless of their current roles. He also has a keen eye for spotting potential and encourages us to embrace our unique journeys and cultivate our personal brands, especially in the fast-paced tech industry and in the quality assurance space. Get ready for a compelling conversation that will challenge you to take your personal brand seriously and inspire you to grow both personally and professionally. Without further ado, let's welcome Sean Ammon. Welcome, sir. How are you today?
Hi, Palesa. Thanks. It's such a privilege to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. In all our episodes, we have a ritual on JohoTest where we ask our guests to just give us an explanation or just an overall summary of what the word quality means to them.
Okay, that's a good one. I guess for me, quality would be the definition of excellence, the definition of acceptable. I think that's pretty much what it means for me.
Can you give us a background on how you then, if you have any experience in software testing or your understanding of software testing, and if there is any history, like you worked as a QA person? Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I've been in the space of helping clients to modernize their business for the better part of 22 years. And I've been through a couple of cycles in terms of the different system fads, when it's, from the .coms to the SAPs to the platforms to the rest of it. So I've seen a few things.
Sure.
And I think that I've been blessed to have had a number of roles within the software development lifecycle, if we call it that today. I was a project manager and a program and portfolio manager for many years. I started off as a business analyst. I studied computer science, so I've been involved in coding, and in our days there were no vibe coding and AI coding. It was the old school writing code. And I've also been involved in facilitating processes with QA engineers, with working on acceptance criteria. I've also been involved in post-project audits with external auditors, where we look at the controls, the system configs, the functional requirements, acceptance, and actually checking what the QAs do. So I've been very blessed to work across the SDLC. And I think that similar to you, my passion is really around just sharing my knowledge in terms of where the software development lifecycle is going, where the different careers within that space is going, and how people can get ahead.
I love that you are very people focused outside of just us working with machines and these software tools. Our thing today is automation testing, right? And maybe not the specifics of the tools and what we can do, but I want to know, a lot of the people that are in manual testing that are too afraid to get into automation testing, or they feel like they're too busy for learning or getting involved in automation testing. What kind of person would thrive in automation testing? Is it for everybody? And if it is, do you have insights or something to share for somebody who isn't in manual and is considering transitioning or wants to transition and doesn't know how to navigate that world?
That's a good question. And I think that if I take it from a industry perspective, we work across many different industries. And what I can tell you is that automation, modernization, AI, and all those buzzwords is on every organization's top 5 priorities.
Yes.
In some cases, that is the priority, as that is the strategy. And I say that as context because that then informs your question.
Yeah.
So it's not really a case of people wanting to. It's a case of the urgency of how quickly they adopt and how specialized they become.
Okay.
There is no option around whether to learn it or not. It's sort of, to simplify it in a different sort of way, if you think back to the pre-computers days, the
Yes.
pre-PC days, and if you look at a function like finance,
Yes.
somebody was, invoices would arrive on somebody's desk and they would stamp it and they would walk over to another person and they would put it into an inbox sort of tray, and then that's how the process would be run. And then came along the personal computer, which automated a lot of that process and digitized a lot of that process. Now, if you look at yourself being that person sitting on the desk stamping the invoices, when the PC arrived, what would happen if you refused to use it?
You're out.
You're obsolete. And I think that it's even more severe today than it was in those days, purely because every client of ours as well is looking at reducing manual.
Yeah.
At removing manual, sorry, not reducing, removing. So manual as we know it is what we call in the sunset. It's the sunset process. It's a sunset way of working.
Yeah.
It's fading away.
Yeah.
And I think in South Africa, we've seen in the corporate space, there's been a slightly slower uptake.
Yeah.
Because I guess large corporates, your large blue chip organizations move slowly.
Have legacy systems as well.
Exactly. So there's a bit of time in terms of the uptake. But the reality is that it's not going to be a phased approach. One day it's just going to be the norm, because you find that more and more the AI systems like Microsoft Copilot that come natively with your Microsoft ELA that most corporates have, you don't have to pay extra for it, you get it, is improving daily. The models are getting smarter, they're getting more robust, they're becoming more entrenched in terms of the way that organizations train them, which means that the people that are now performing the manual work are either adopting those tools to make their work better. Let's make it more relevant. So if I was running a program to put in a new piece of software, a new piece of capability for a bank, for example, and I was sitting down with my team to discuss QA, and if my testers had to look at me and say that it took a month to put together their test packs the manual way, I would be very shocked, because I can guarantee you that using Copilot, it can be done in days, max. So think about what that does from a cost perspective for the organization and for the project. All of a sudden, the human resource cost, what we call the manpower cost, has reduced dramatically, which means that the projects come in cheaper. Yes. Which means that for the same money, organizations can do more work.
Can double, or triple.
Or triple. And so that's the principle of it, right? Yeah. Which puts the manual tester in an awkward position now. Because what happens to the manual tester? And I guess that's really where you're going with your question is the manual tester still sits there with Excel and Word and still wants to put together manual test scripts and still wants to go through and do the different test cases manually. But I think that the advice I could give people as a step one would be start embracing just using the AI for the basic tasks first. And once you are through with just getting familiar with the AI, because, and the reason it might sound like I'm starting from a very granular point, but you're surprised how many people haven't even used the AI.
Yeah.
They don't know what Copilot is. They've never asked Copilot to help them do anything. So they have no idea what the capabilities of the Copilot are. In fact, working with AI means you need to learn a different language. 100%. You need to learn a language that's called the language of prompting. Because the AI is only as good as the prompt.
100%.
So it's similar to when you learn a different language altogether.
Yeah.
At the beginning, you can't really speak it. You can probably say one or two greetings and the swear words and that sort of thing.
It's true.
And then over time of practicing, you learn how to speak it, and then eventually you get your phrasing right in terms of how you're able to talk to locals, and eventually you become fluent.
Yes.
It's the same process with AI.
Sure. So let me then ask, because you're saying that we can't really avoid automation, right? But does the maturity of the organization matter?
Yes.
Does that dictate? Because I mean, we don't want to go automate everything redundantly, or is there such a thing as over automating?
Look, automation is not the answer for everything. And that's the key point. Because sometimes the investment in automation does not justify the problem that you're trying to automate for.
Okay.
So either the problem is too big,
yes,
and automating that just has no benefit because you can't automate it. It's so complex. We see it not only in test automation, but in process automation. The costs to automate this process just are so much that the benefit that you get back from the business for automating it doesn't make sense. So that's the one. The other one is where the automation opportunity is too small. It's too simple.
Sure.
So why would you automate it?
Yeah.
Just do it manually. You know.
But who does this diagnosis? Who says?
Well, typically in your project feasibility, this is how the project needs to be broken up. But a good test manager would also do that. You know, our test managers are always looking at how we optimize the use of QA resources, whether that be the manual resources, the automation resources, and the AI resources, because that's another resource. And it's very important to have an analysis based on the business problem that you're trying to solve for, you're trying to fix, to give you an input on whether to automate or not. I can tell you for a lot of our clients, and this is the message that we often tell them when they say we want to automate processes, is let us do a walkthrough of your process first. Okay. Let us see exactly what it is you're trying to automate and why. So for instance, we have a client that that was running a manual process, but the manual testing process just for the creation of the test data, because this is where AI is really good, right? The creation of test data, which is something that people don't talk about. In order to test, you need test data. 100%. Right? Yeah. In the format that is applicable to the system. And the scenario right? Testing, exactly. So AI is very good at helping with that. Yeah. But one of the clients that we had was trying to create test data, and they were doing it manually. And it was taking them 2 weeks just to create test data. You know them, right? You know this, right? I know this very well. So the entire testing cycle took them 517 hours because it just took so long. They had to create the data customer manually. The customer had to then be propagated in 3 or 4 other systems. Those systems then needed to reflect because they were a global organization. And then eventually the data related to the devices that they sell, all of that became available, and then they were able to test. So using automation for the creation of the data and to automate some of the processes that were repeatable, that never changed, on screens that never changed, and on UIs that were static, we reduced that down to 16 hours. Sheesh. So what have we now done for the people that were in that testing team? There were 7 people in that testing team. Yeah. So what happened to them? So you would think now all of these people are now, because this is the other thing that people fear when it comes to automating. Yes, what happened to that team? Do you get rid of the people? What happens? Yeah. They saw that there was actually more value in the people that understood the processes at that level to be business analysts. So 1 or 2 of them became BAs. One of them started working in the nerve center, in the control center, who operated all the screens related to the uptime of the organization, because it's a service level organization. Sure. You can't have any downtime, right? There has to be service availability all the time. And so people were all of a sudden put into a role and upskilled into a role where they added much more value to the business. 100%. Much more value, and it actually gave them much more of a career path, right? Opposed to being a manual tester and writing manual test scripts and control sheets and those things that just add very little value in today's world. Well, let's speak about that. People creating careers for themselves. Yeah. I mean, we have many vast ways of software testing, or people can implement testing. There's manual, automation, AI testing now. There is security testing, performance testing, all these types of testing. But for automation specifically, how do I create a career in that? Whether going into it, somebody who is who's working as a automation tester, how do I make myself a business and be able to communicate
my hours? How do I position myself to a organization to say, this is what I bring, these are the skills I offer, and this is what I am going to deliver on?
I think that for me, always begin with the end in mind.
Okay.
Right. So, and this would be the advice I would give my kids, is always begin with the end in mind. Close your eyes and visualize what it is you see for yourself in the next 3, 5, 1 year. Depends, right? If you're looking for some sort of direction in terms of your career.
Sure.
And when you're able to, and if you can't, so before I get to and if you can't, always realize that most people have some sort of network that they can lean on. And people in your network that you're leaning on you don't have to tell them you're leaning on them.
Okay.
You don't have to go to somebody at lunchtime and organization you work with and say, listen, I want to ask you some career advice. You can have a cup of coffee when you're standing next to the person in the coffee line. What do you think about X? What do you think about what do you think about testing, the testing industry, the testing business as a consulting business? What do you think about it? Do you think there's a market for it? So the point I'm making is that do your research, as in make sure you look at what's happening in the greater economy, look at the people that you know and you trust, lean on them for advice, guidance, and information relating to where it is you want to go. Be very deliberate about networking with people that you aspire to be like. Okay?
Yeah.
And for me, that became a very clear distinction between having business friends and having personal friends. And making a deliberate choice to select people to be my business friends that had something to offer me in terms of making me better.
Yeah.
Right? Which may sound selfish to a degree, but I think that in today's business world, and it's not in today's business world, any business world, one needs to be astute.
Yes.
And being astute means that you need to be able to rub shoulders with people that can help you improve. You have to be deliberate about
Absolutely.
that. So that's the first thing, right? Is do your market research. Talk to people that have already made it to where you want to be. And then get insight from them how they got there. But then you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what is it that you aspire to be in your life? And it's not an easy question. It's not at all. You don't just look at yourself and say, oh, I want to be this. Many years ago, about 22 years ago, I met somebody and he was my boss at the time. And I had been working for a major corporate called Accenture.
Okay.
And I then left and I then joined his organization. And when I met him, I realized that this is what I want. I want to have my own organization. And it was so clear in my mind that I want to have my own organization that it set me on this journey to attain that. But the passion was so much that even though there were many obstacles over the years, it still allowed me to push through. And that's why you have a vision that's driven by passion.
Yeah.
Because you know in the core of your being, that's what you want to be. Now, but these are the realities that not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, right?
Yep.
Some people want to be the CIO of a major listed organization.
100%. Yes.
Some people want to be a test manager. Some people want to be a portfolio manager. People have different ambitions, and that's the most beautiful thing about life, is that we're all different. And there is no right, there is no wrong. So the first piece of the puzzle is really around defining where it is that you aim to be in your life. And secondly, understanding what is it going to take for you to get there. So I see it a lot with the testers in my team, is they aspire to be at a more senior level.
Okay.
But they don't want to embrace automation. And they don't want to learn the new technologies.
Yeah.
So how, as a manual tester, can you get to a higher level of operating if you haven't upskilled yourself enough to do so? There's also another thing that people don't like to talk about, which I think for me is just critical, is the fact that there's competition out there. How many testers do you think exist in the financial services space alone? Thousands.
A lot, yeah.
Thousands. It's
Yeah.
the same pool
Yes.
that you're competing with.
Yeah.
So you have to think, what makes you different in that pool? How do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah.
Is it your experience? Is it your capabilities?
Mm.
Is it your network? What is it? And you have to find a way of getting yourself to be differentiated.
Mm.
And that differentiation needs to drive your vision. Ultimately, once you've got those things in place and you understand what it is you need to do, then you just have to work relentlessly and have periodic check-ins with yourself to make sure that you're on track. And that's often useful to also have somebody else do that with you.
Yes.
A mentor.
Yes.
And remember, somebody doesn't have to know that you're your mentor, right? You don't have to go to somebody and say, Balisa, please be my mentor.
Me.
No, they don't have to know, right?
Yeah.
You can ask. And for me, I've got many mentors. They just don't know they're my mentor. You'll be surprised, or you might not be, but I find that I learn from everyone. So everyone's my mentor.
Sure.
I've learned so much from the lady that cleans our office and makes me tea.
Yes.
I've learned so much from her about life,
Yes.
So if you're open to learning and you have a growth mindset, you can really learn from anyone. So you don't have to have one person. In fact, I don't like the idea of only having one person, because then you're constrained to the thinking of one person.
100%.
So, but anyway, coming back to the point, and let's get back to where we were talking, what you were talking about. For me, I think as a manual tester, you have to get a fay with automation, if not automation, AI. If you say that your ambition is to be a manual tester, then in order to be the best manual tester you can be, you need to know how to use AI tools to make your testing process simpler, better, faster, and most importantly, most accurate.
Yes.
So you talked about quality, so you need to drive the assurance of quality quicker.
Yes.
Because that's how you stay relevant, that's how you make a difference, and that's how you grow your brand.
I also think it's very important to also have a broader understanding of the fact that moving into automation does not just speak to you as a tester. There's a very high chance that the development team is already in the space, especially with AI considering that, which means faster delivery, and which means there'll be a rapid demand for quicker quality assurance as well. So if we're not upskilled, if we don't know what we're doing, we'll keep falling behind, and there will be a level of redundancy in our roles as QA people if we're not at the level that the business desires us to be functioning from.
Yeah.
But there's something that you did in my mind when you talked about organizations and also them factoring in their maturity levels and understanding when to automate and when not to. So in a space where you are in an organization and we have decided to automate parts of our QA team, or there's this section, this feature that we're going to automate, and there's a number of people that have been working on that, right? These are billable hours that we are billing the client for if we're going to be doing products for clients. Do we still bill at the same rate? Because if they're going to be getting quicker work at a smaller scale of people, we are then billing at a smaller rate, but yes, with quicker work. And all these other people, then what happens when somebody is not good enough to then place in a different role, or there is no growth? We're going to lose that person. Is that not there is an being a bit insensitive to people that have been there? Because you do find that in the QA space, we find that there's been employees that have been in a role for a very long time, others close to retirement. What are we saying to those people?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. And I think I read an article a few weeks ago where they talked about the power of AI and how AI and automation is enabling a solopreneur, which is a one-person business, to have the power of a small firm.
Yeah.
And that is incredible to think about, because in our minds, the economics works about headcount, like you said.
Yes.
So 10 headcount, 10 hours at 160 an hour a month, and so you get it. And I think what you need to realize is, and I guess I can give you some insight from the market, is that every client of ours, every single one, is cost cutting. So for me, the question is, how do you stay relevant? How do you stay relevant in a cost-cutting market? You stay relevant in a cost-cutting market by offering more value for money. What these tools allow you to do is they allow you to do more. So instead of being on one project, you're now on two or three. Instead of working with one client, you're working with a few. There's also an area, and if you want to talk about it from an entrepreneurial perspective, there's also the opportunity to now change the model from being consulting hours to being product. So if you create a product in the testing space that's niche to banking, you can now charge them for the product. Right?
Okay.
Or if you create a framework for testing that makes testing in a regulatory environment, for example, 10 times quicker, they can pay you for the product that you've developed. If you find a testing solution that is a technology that South Africa doesn't have, or maybe they do have it, no one is selling it, and you sell it to your client, you're now getting license fees. So it opens up a whole different area.
Like there's a world of opportunity
in terms of that. And what we're also seeing as a pivot in the market, obviously South Africa's got a massive unemployment rate, but what we've seen as the pivot in the market is actually not creating more jobs, but empowering people to be entrepreneurs. That's the pivot. Because let's be honest, everyone's got a side hustle, right?
You have to.
Exactly. So everyone's got the side hustle. So people are now also people are now realizing that by leveraging these technologies, they're able to run numerous things at the same time, which enables them to do more, which enables them to have the side hustle, or
100%.
So the point I'm making is that people are becoming entrepreneurs. We're not forcing them to. They are becoming entrepreneurs, whether they're doing YouTube videos, whether they're doing TikTok videos, whether they are becoming influencers. People are finding a way of becoming thought leaders in this space and commoditizing that.
Look, you've shared great insights. I just want to we're about to wrap up, but in my mind, is there anything that organizations can also do to encourage their employees to start looking in that direction, right? Because if there are no self-starters, if there are not enough curious people, or they don't even know in which direction to start looking to pique their interest, is there a thing that test managers, test leads, heads of QA should be supporting or encouraging their teams to move into that?
For the sake of for your listeners, I'm going to give you my brutal and honest answer.
Okay.
And it's probably not going to be the most politically correct, but it's the truth.
Yes.
Organizations are going to drive shareholder return. So the shareholders and the board are going to push an agenda onto the senior leadership. We're going to push an agenda onto the middle leadership, who are going to push an agenda all the way down. That share agenda is driven by shareholder return. Because that's what companies do. A business, by definition, has to be profitable. So the bigger the profit number, the better for the organization. As a tester or as an employee, you don't have to like that.
Yes.
But you have to accept it. You don't have to like it. But it is not going to change because you think the organization owes you something. And if you believe the organization owes you something, it's the wrong mindset to have. Because unless you're a shareholder, they don't owe you anything. So the best thing to do, and I'm going to paraphrase one of those US presidents that said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I would even say, take the country out. You have to be so focused on yourself to understand where you want to get in this world. And be so diligent about and so deliberate about getting yourself there that it's independent of any other factor that you feel should help you get there, because nobody's going to help you.
No one is going to.
No one is going to help you. And if you think they are, then I wish you all the best. But in my experience, you're the only person you can count on is yourself.
100%.
Again, you don't have to like it, but it's the truth, and you have to accept it in many cases. Some people, I guess, do have other support structures, but I'm talking about the majority of us now.
Yeah.
The majority of us who have to make something from nothing, right? There was no start, there was zero, right? So the cool thing about this is when you accept it, you can now say, now I've accepted that this is the way it works. So where does that put me? That puts me in a space where I need to be very clear about where I'm going, and I need to drive my own journey to get there. And that journey might intersect with many organizations. That journey might intersect with many industries. That's fine, right? As long as you're driving an agenda that works for where you want to be in your life. The only thing I want to say that's on a closing there is I see this a lot in my business, which is where people leave. And the manner in which they leave is not sometimes the nicest.
Yeah.
You know, guys, the world is such a small place. And this industry is so small.
The tech industry is
super everyone tiny. Sees everyone. Everybody knows everyone.
Super tiny.
Your personal brand is so important. You got to think about what your personal brand stands for. Because even though you may not understand what it is, it already stands for something.
Yeah.
And you never want to burn a bridge, because you'll see the same people again and again and again. So be focused, be diligent, be deliberate, but be principled. And hold yourself to a high standard, and that's what gets you ahead.
Love it. Wow. I think with all that you've shared, I believe that whoever hears the podcast would be doing themselves an injustice by just waiting. I think the time does not allow for the wait anymore. Actually, it's very dangerous to just be waiting and believing that you'll be afforded a chance. Look, I'm sure there's going to be people wanting to find out more about you. Do you mind sharing with us, where can people find you? I do know there's blog posts that have been written from your opinion pieces on your website. Can you just share a couple of details on that? And
Yes, of course. My business is called Siba Industries. We're based out in the Sandton area, and people can check us out at www.siba.co.za. And I'm on LinkedIn at Sean Ammon at Siba, so they can feel free to check me out. And we do a lot of work in the modernization space, so they can feel free to have a look at that.
100%. Again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and giving us your time. And like I said, this was a world of knowledge. I mean, there's a lot to take away from this. And if anything, I take away the fact that I need to be involved in automation as well. There has to be a level of curiosity that I implant in my life, and wanting to learning and wanting to grow in automation and AI testing as well. I'm super grateful. Thank you everybody for joining. We will catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Palisa.
Cheers.